Thank you for being here. My name is Elora Forshee. I am the Director of Emergency Communications for Sedgwick County, and I'm just thankful to have the opportunity to meet and discuss the apartment fire that happened at Brookhollow Apartments on October 13th of 2023. I just have to start by acknowledging the very tragic loss of Ms. Badesky that resulted from the fire and expressing our condolences to her friends and family. And that's impactful for everybody involved and definitely not the outcome that anybody wants from an event such as that. Also, just to say that my sympathies to those that were displaced by the fire, injured by the fire. It affected a lot of people, both in first responders and those living there, and just our sympathies to all involved. Anytime there's something of this magnitude, especially with a loss of life, we have to take the time to examine what occurred. We want to look at opportunities for improvement, things that went well, things that we want to do differently in the future. And I think that's how we honor those involved to make sure that we can avoid this at any pass, any opportunity we have in the future. In doing that, we have examined this fire, and we've done so in partnership with the Wichita Fire Department and have had their input on it as well. I do want to focus on the facts of what occurred, though, and the facts are as follows. The call was received at 3:57 in the morning by our staff. It was answered within 12 seconds, so underneath the 15-second answer time that our standard is for our industry, so we had a good answer time on it. It was entered for dispatch in 1 minute and 15 seconds. There was some time spent trying to figure out where this call was coming from. Obviously, in an event of this nature, people are very upset. It's scary. Of course, it's a nightmare. And so getting that information and figuring out where we need to send units happened within that 1 minute and 15 seconds. The call was entered and dispatched within 45 seconds from there. The first fire crews arrived on scene at 4:02, so it was a little over 5 minutes after the first call was received. By 4:12, we had 15 fire apparatus or trucks there and 38 firefighters on scene actively engaged in fighting that fire. By 4:33, there were 18 fire apparatus and truck there and 51 firefighters on scene, again, engaged in fighting this massive fire. We had multiple reports of the fire being in building number 300. These were relayed to firefighters. We told them that that was the building number that we were looking at. We had people trapped in specific apartments that were reported to that were reported to us, and that was relayed to firefighters. Unfortunately, the information about Ms. Badesky calling from apartment number 306 was not intelligibly heard or understood on the phone from the dispatcher. There was not any understanding or assumption that she was trapped. The call was tragically short, and in hindsight, as we know what occurred after the fact, we understand why it was so short. In the midst of it, we did not know what was occurring or what was happening with her. Our first confirmed report of somebody trapped was in an apartment, and that report came in just shy of 4:08 in the morning at 4:07 and 54 seconds. This was promptly relayed to fire crews. EMS was then dispatched per our protocol without request, sending 2 medic units and a district chief. The first medic unit was on scene at 4:14, and then we had additional requests from crews to start additional EMS personnel, and those requests were fulfilled. Our staff did make us aware of an issue regarding the delay in a full complement of a second alarm being sent. That alarm was requested at 4:02 as crews were rolling into the area. At 4:20, the last 3 trucks were sent to finish out that second alarm complement. That second alarm complement includes 6 trucks, 6 pieces of apparatus, and the last 3 were sent at that time. That delay and the issues that contributed to it were identified during the event and, as I mentioned, reported to 911 administration, both being reported as identified and remedied. They were discussed, they were trained, they were addressed on the spot. Beyond that, though, we wanted to address it with everybody across all shifts, so we put out training for all shifts to ensure that this did not happen again. It wasn't until the evening of October 25th that we were made aware of some accusations being made by the fire union. On October 26th, we requested a meeting with Wichita Fire Department administrative staff to gain some clarity on what concerns they had on the issue. From that meeting, we were invited to an after action on the event, which we attended on November 14th. We held departmental-wide training, mandatory for all 911 employees, occurring November 15th through 21st. And we were very thankful to incorporate the information gained from that debrief into that training to make sure all staff were aware of everything from their perspective that would have helped them out in that event. We have and will continue to partner with the Wichita Fire Department to ensure that our community has what they need out of a 911 system, and that they have what they need out of the fire departments. This is a critical part of our community. We have a designated liaison from 911 who meets with the Wichita Fire Department regularly. They meet in person, by phone, through email. They talk more than probably any other department liaison that we have in the community. And we're thankful for that feedback. We're thankful for that open line of dialogue. We will continue to be transparent, honest, truthful, and open with all of our partners about anything that we do at 911 because we know that's key to ensuring a good community and a safe community. And those partners include our community members, our media, our public safety partners. We have nothing that we are trying to hide or cover up. We want to be really transparent about what we're doing here. This event was tragic. And the outcome of this event is what we fight against every day. As I mentioned, this is something that weighs heavily on our staff. This is not what we want to have happen. This impacts us greatly. It fuels our passion to continue to grow and make improvements in our system, and that's what we're focused on moving forward. If you have any questions, I'm
yes, we'll take some
happy.
questions.
I guess I can jump in then.
Sure.
So what, if any, steps have been taken? You mentioned this mandatory training to ensure that something like this does not happen again. What additional enhancements to that process have come out of this situation, this tragic situation?
So we definitely evaluated the training that had occurred on the second alarm response to see where those gaps, why that training didn't follow through in operation like we expected to. And then those gaps were addressed in that training, in that departmental-wide training, and it will be in our academy training moving forward.
Having listened to the audio call, she communicated pretty clearly the name of the apartment complex and her building number, saying that it was on fire and expressing, I mean, it's pretty harrowing to listen to.
It's horrible.
What did she not communicate? And was the impetus on her to say that she was stuck, or should the dispatcher have been asking her, can you get out of your building? I mean,
had the call been able to continue, those questions are asked on every call. Are you able to safely exit the building? Instructions on how to safely exit the building. So again, had that call not been cut short, then we would have been able to do that. So no, I don't think there's any ownership on her in any part of that. It's a very natural response to a very horrific thing occurring there. I think after the fact, it's very easy when you know what you're listening for to hear that. When you're in the moment and you're trying to figure out what's going on and where somebody is, I think that it's a little bit harder to discern that. I wish that that would have been heard and identified. I think everybody involved does. Simple fact is we're human, and it wasn't heard.
So no disciplinary actions have been taken against anybody for handling a dispatch or, the second alarm or anything there?
There were two people that were unable to identify how to send that second alarm, and I feel like when you have a systemic issue like that that's pervasive beyond one person, I think training is needed. And so that is the way that we went after that, is to make sure that this doesn't happen again, that everybody knows what they are to do and that that's able to be done and executed efficiently. And so no, there was no disciplinary action for that. As far as the person that, I guess, are you asking if there was disciplinary action on the call taker side of who heard that?
Yes.
I don't know that I could discipline being able to hear everything into somebody. I don't think you can create that outcome out of that. And I think the natural consequence of knowing what happened has provided enough repercussion for that staff member.
Seems like some of the frustration communicated from the fire union is that this is not a terrible tragedy that highlights that there may be some problems here. They feel like they brought their concerns forward in June and have been communicating clearly that this is not just a glitch in the system, that there are systemic problems with the CAD. And so that they feel like that on the city and county side both, that there has just been a lack of acceptance of their complaints that are being brought forward. Would you say that's fair?
I don't say that's fair. I think that we have been very responsive to everything concrete and truthful that's been brought forward. We have a Wichita Fire Department, beyond the liaison that discusses operational issues, they have somebody that is handling all their CAD programming, and we've trained them on how to do that so that they have ownership, full ownership over their response plans and how CAD's programmed for that, and trying to give them all the agency that we can to have the system what they want it to be. Every partner of ours in public safety, they need this system to work and work for what they need to be able to serve our community. So we've really opened up those doors and been very responsive to the Wichita Fire Department. And even going back, I mean, they were involved in the selection process for this CAD system. They were involved in, they've been involved in our training process of how we train staff. They've come to academies and trained our staff. We've gone to their fire stations. So we will continue to respond to concrete, truthful requests for improvements, for modifications, for partnership, and I think that we have a really good relationship with the Wichita Fire Department administration in doing that. Even in this debrief, we were so thankful to be able to be a part of it. That's not been anything that we've been a part of before, and I know that everybody involved said that that was very fruitful, and we want to do that moving forward. And so I would say that the accusation or allegation that we haven't been responsive is false.
Would you support what they're calling for, which is a third-party independent investigation into specifically the response to this fire, but also
Sure.
the county's training practices?
I think that we have never in any way tried to hide anything what we're doing. We are transparent. I welcome anybody to, community member, public, anybody to come meet with me, come look at the system. We can show them what's going, and any feedback is obviously absolutely appropriate and received and wanted, and we don't operate in a vacuum. And so I don't shy away from anything of the sort.
As a reminder, we're here to talk about the actual incident itself and not fully the accusations made by the local union. Is there anybody else that has any questions?
On that particular night, and this was discussed by the fire union, and it just needs clarification, maybe an explanation for the general public, is that the ground operations of the fire department are switched to what is it called, tactical channel. Can you explain? Because one of the union members spoke about the transmission of a person trapped in a specific number. But they say that wasn't transmitted on the tactical channel, but that's not. Can you explain the operations
Absolutely, yeah.
between the chief, fire
Yes.
command?
So we have two fire channels that we monitor. The first one is it's called Resource, and that's what we dispatch and track personnel on. And then the other one is Fire Operations. So after they're dispatched to an event, they switch over to that operations channel. From there, they have the ability to also have tactical channels or talk around channels to communicate within the crews that are out there and not clog up that channel that's being monitored. It is well understood by all involved that dispatch does not monitor those TAC channels. We will respond to requests to simulcast information on those TAC channels, like when they went defensive on this fire, that was toned out and simulcast across that. But we have communication with the person in command who assumes that command, and they're identified to us on that operational channel, and that is who our traffic goes through. The information about people being trapped in specific apartments were provided to command on those operational channels, and by their acknowledgement, the Wichita Fire Department were aware of those apartments. Anything else?
Any other questions?
I do have one more specific question,
Yeah.
which is, could you speak a little bit to the difference in, my understanding is that the dispatch two position, these are the most highly trained and experienced people in the call center, and that they primarily do work with law enforcement, or dispatching law enforcement calls. Is that true? Do dispatch two, do they ever work with dispatching fire calls, or could you speak to the level
Yeah,
of
absolutely.
experience and training required?
Yeah, so when dispatchers are first promoted, we start out with training them on fire and EMS dispatching, and then they are cross-trained into law enforcement dispatching. And after a certain amount of time and experience in that dispatcher 2 designation or promotion occurs, dispatcher 2s are absolutely still working fire and EMS channels. They train. That you have to be a dispatcher 2 to be training, and so they are very involved in the fire and EMS dispatching process, and so it is it is inaccurate to say that only our best and most qualified or our best and most experienced go to law enforcement dispatching. It's our goal, of course, is to have everybody cross-trained and able to work any position in the room. Yeah, thank you.
Last call for questions. Thank you so much for being here today. We appreciate it.
Thank you, I appreciate it.